Every now and then in Rotary, you come across a project that takes your breath away. And I got one here which has been taking my breath away for the last 7 years, mainly in my head, but we're now getting to a point where this is going to become a reality. And we're developing a global grant, which is very close to submission. And if you're not as in awe of this community as I am, then I'm obviously not telling my story properly. The community in question is a place called Piplantri. It's a grouping of 9 small villages in Rajasthan. The head village is Piplantri as well. And Rajasthan, by the way, is a very dry state. And so this photo automatically makes you think, well, this doesn't look like a dry state. And there's a story behind it, which is what drew me to this village in the first place. Now, that's me and my sister sitting there on the rock steps. And between us is my good friend Sham Sundar Paliwal. Sham is known around India as India's father of ecofeminism. Already, I'm sure I've got you sitting forward in your seats, wanting to know more about a man who could possibly be given this wonderful name. Unfortunately, many parts of the story are pretty hard. You'll notice above us to the side there is a statue of a young girl with a watering can. That's Sham's daughter, Kiran. Kiran passed away about 16, 17 years ago at the age of 16. She became ill after drinking water contaminated with human waste and never recovered. As you can imagine, Sham's family was absolutely shattered. Sham disappeared into the wilderness for 3 days. And when he came home, he told his wife that he'd planted 111 trees in memory of Kiran. One for mother, one for father, one for Kiran. The very next day, a little girl was born to their next door neighbor. Sham disappeared into the wilderness again and planted another 111 trees, but this time celebrating the birth of a girl. And it took off. Ever since that time, for the last 16, 17 years, when a girl has been born in Piplantri, or to a family member of someone from Piplantri in another part of India, or to a friend in another part of India, the community members in Piplantri have gone out and planted 111 trees in celebration of girls. 400,000 plus trees to date have been planted in celebration of girls. It wasn't long after they started planting the trees that they saw there was a bit of a problem with termites damaging a lot of the trees and even killing some of them. And they found out that the best way to repel termites on a big scale was to plant aloe vera around the trees. And so they started planting aloe vera around the trees. So far, they've planted just over 2.5 million aloe vera plants. Again, all in celebration of girls. This once desert state can no longer be described as a desert, particularly in this part of the state. Now, I met some of the girls in the schools in Piplantri who had had trees planted in their names, and they all knew their own trees very well. In fact, they would often go out with their mothers or friends and tend to their own trees. But there's some other stuff that's going on in the background, which really lifts this story into the stratosphere, as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't long after they started planting the trees that Sham was then talking with community elders saying, well, it's all very well to plant trees to celebrate girls, but that celebration alone isn't going to create a better future for them. What can we do to create a better future for these girls? And the community decided as a whole that they would put money aside for girls at the time of their birth, approximately the equivalent of $500 at the time of their birth, to be given to them when they turn 18, if they're not yet married and they've finished school. The first of those girls, some of the girls in this photo, will be turning 18 next year. And the money that's been put aside for them for all these years is going to start coming back into the community. But of course, it's also going to give these girls some financial independence, which is not a given in this part of India or in many other parts of the developing world in general. Now, in addition to putting money aside for the girls, remember I mentioned the aloe vera. That's an awful lot of aloe vera, 2.5 million plants. Some years ago, the community purchased a machine for processing aloe vera into commercially viable products, but nobody knows how to use the machine. So as part of our project, we're going to arrange some training. We've already found a training organization, another part of India, that's willing to send people into the community covered in the cost of the global grant, and they will train a group of women in processing aloe vera into commercially viable products, such as skincare products, shampoo, soap, and so on. A certain amount of the soap will be set aside for the schools as an ongoing donation from this business, and it's a viable business, by the way, as you'll hear, from this business will be given to the schools to ensure that they have an ongoing supply of soap for the children to wash their hands with, because you need that if you're going to introduce a proper wash education program into schools. And as you'll hear soon, we're certainly going to be doing that. In addition to women being trained to process the aloe vera, we're also going to train a few men in harvesting the aloe vera in a sustainable manner. The same company that's training the women to use the machines also knows about harvesting sustainably. And in addition to that, that company is interested in buying the product that the women produce using this aloe vera machine. So we already have a ready market for them, and we will help them ensure that the price that they're getting is commercially acceptable as a part of our intervention and partnership with the community. Another thing that the community bought a few years ago was a menstrual pad making machine. But once again, nobody knows how to use it. We've found a training organization that knows this machine extremely well. Once again, they'll be coming up to Pipluntri to train a group of women in using this machine to create pads, which can be sold within the community at the same price that they're currently paying for pads that they source elsewhere in India. Again, a viable business creating ongoing employment for a group of women. A young man, Shyam Sundar Paliwal's son, Rahul, who has become a great friend of mine as well, he's going to be trained in maintaining and repairing both the aloe vera machine and the pad machine. So we have a nice combination of two really nice businesses. They're going to tie in beautifully with the WASH program that we're taking into the schools, and also developing the economy in the community, which they've already focused on by putting money aside for girls for so many years. The final part before we go into the schools is the trees. Currently, the people at Pipluntri are spending a lot of money buying trees from all over India. I sat down with Shyam last year and said, what solutions are there for this? And he said he'd been thinking for a while about setting up a tree nursery. Well, things are underway with that now. They're building a framework for the tree nursery, and we're going to provide them with the first 10,000 saplings to go into the tree nursery. The ultimate aim here is for Pipluntri to become a net supplier of trees rather than net buyer of trees. So that's a third sustainable business, all tied in with what this community wants. Because, of course, we've done a community needs assessment that covers everything that you've heard so far. The final piece of the puzzle is the Wash in Schools program. There are 7 schools in the 9 villages of Pipluntri. They all have toilets of some kind, but some are effectively completely unusable. Others have roofs that have collapsed. Most of them, the plumbing system, what there is of it, is catastrophic. And there aren't enough toilets or hand washing facilities in any of the schools. So we're going to be solving that problem by going through the schools one by one and meeting the needs of those schools according to not the current population of the schools, but the potential population of the schools, because we know that if we make these improvements, there'll be an increase in number of students in the schools, because currently a lot of girls are dropping out when they reach puberty because the facilities in schools simply aren't good enough. Well, I mentioned WASH education. I can't really mention WASH education to anyone without showing you a little bit of what some Indian school children under our project, Operation Toilets, have learned in previous projects and are certainly going to be learning in Pip Plantry. So on that note, over to these children, and thanks very much for your time.